Nearly 6 months after a deadly insurrection was fueled by the lie of voter fraud in the 2020 election, there are consequences, some of them, for the big lie's biggest proponents. A New York court has suspended the law license of former President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. In a scathing opinion, a panel of judges said that Giuliani made, quote, demonstrably false and misleading statements to courts, lawmakers, and the public at large. False statements intended to foment a loss of confidence in our elections and resulting loss of confidence in government. In an interview with NBC News, Giuliani blasted the decision and pledged to fight back. It comes as attorneys for Giuliani and two of his fellow travelers in those lies, Sidney Powell and the My Pillow guy, are in court today defending themselves against a billion-dollar defamation suit filed against them by voting machine company Dominion for their role in spreading baseless conspiracies about their machines. All three are asking a judge to dismiss the lawsuit. According to the Washington Post, Sidney Powell's attorneys are arguing, quote, no reasonable person would have believed that her statements were truly statements of fact. Joining our conversation, former FBI General Counsel and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman, marketing and branding expert. Our friend Donnie Deutsch is here. He's the host of the On Brand podcast. So I know that she was full of, rhymes with hits, starts with SH, but millions of Trump supporters don't. And in a DHS warning issued today, we are still at risk. The homeland is still at risk of violence from people who believe these conspiracies, Andrew Weissman.
Well, I have to say, following on your last segment where you posited, where's the bottom? Where's the floor? Yeah. One thing here is the brilliance of Dominion bringing this lawsuit, because this is something that we have seen, which is the courts have actually done a good job at holding people to account. And this is a lawsuit, and the court, by all accounts, the argument's still going on. This is a Trump-appointed district court judge giving a very hard time to the defense arguments to dismiss this case, because he's correctly saying, these are statements that are not opinion, they're not political speech. These are alleged to be false statements, and it looks like he's going to decide that this is something that should go to a jury. And so there is a limit to what people can say if they say it maliciously and falsely. And it's just ironic that you have Rudy Giuliani today, the same time this argument's happening, being suspended for making these kinds of false statements.
Let me just follow up with you. I mean, you're right. The wheels of justice grind so much more slowly than our news cycles crave. But I think you're hitting on something that it's not that there's a bottom, but there are some people you can't lie about. I mean, the ex-president lied, I think by the time the Washington Post stopped counting, more than 35,000 times. But it turns out intentionally false claims about a company, in this case Dominion, and I believe Smartmatic has also sued for defamation, yes, may have a consequence. Do you think they will be successful, Andrew Weissman?
I do, but one point, Nicole, to your point, is that this is so anomalous because when the law is willing to hold people to account for making false statements, I think the public is getting a lesson on this, because here the question is defamation by people of a company with real consequences, and that looks like it will go forward. And there would be severe consequences to these people, as there should be. But on the other hand, you have the former president of the United States making false statements and denigrating a woman who had claimed that she was raped. And that is something that even this Department of Justice is saying is protected speech. I disagree with that, because he didn't just say, I didn't do it. He actually went further and defamed her. But the law is somewhat inconsistent as to when it will hold people to account and when it won't. I know just from the special counsel's office, it's a crime to lie to the FBI. It's a crime to lie to Congress, and people were held to account there, but for, the then president pardoning people, but a jury held them to account.
I mean, all of this, Donnie Deutsch, that Andrew Weissman is speaking to is this pent up, I think, appetite to see the ex-president and his allies do something other than appear Houdini-like. I mean, as Andrew just said, I think it is very frustrating to people that the Garland Justice Department is defending the twice impeached ex-president against E. Jean Carroll. I think it is frustrating that those 35,000 lies he told culminated in a months-long campaign to sow doubt about his own loss. He lost in the most secure election in history. I want to show you something that might end up in front of the jurors if this case goes to trial from the folks being sued for defamation. Let's watch.
We now have reams and reams of actual documents from Smartmatic and Dominion, including evidence that they planned and executed all of this. We have evidence of how they flipped the votes, how it was designed to flip the votes.
They were founded as a company to fix elections. They have a terrible record, and they are extremely hackable.
They had to scramble and backfill votes into their machines. I look at algorithms every day. The big spikes that you've seen is, look at Michigan. That's impossible. You get a couple hundred thousand votes put into a machine for Biden and zero for Donald Trump. It's craziness.
So, Donnie, their defense, or at least Sidney Powell's, I haven't seen the other two, but the defense for Sidney Powell is nobody thought she was serious there. I mean, it's laughable to us, but in that world, those were serious news segments.
It was serious as a heart attack. And, the latest Monmouth poll, 1/3 of the entire country believes the election was not legitimate, and 2/3 of Republicans, I mean, those are a lot of educated people in there, believe the election was not legitimate. So this is real damage. I just want to step back for a second, Nicole, and also just the previous segment and the cast of characters and with Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and Matt Gaetz, and now we have Lindell, the pillow guy, and Giuliani and Sidney Powell. What's wrong with these people? We cover it every day, and sometimes you lose sight of the basic lack of humanity and basic human decency. We cover these people that we don't sometimes just step back and go, what is wrong with these people? Are they just not well? And I know that's not our job to do that, but when I sat through and I just was watching the previous segment and I watched this segment, and it's easy to get lost, and as we just talk about some of the issues with the complete lack of humanity and decency and integrity, and that still 2/3 of Republicans go okay with this, and 1/3 of the entire country. And it's just so sobering. It's so sobering.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll try to answer part of it. It's not what makes the news isn't the depravity, personal or political. It's that their statements and their actions now threaten all of us. We have because I think about this too, and there's a lot of there's a lot behind the scenes where we have to look at what they do and what is worthy of our attention and airtime. Paul Rykoff said in the last segment, lift up Millie and turn the lights down on the lunatics. And I will endeavor to do that. But the problem, and just to build on your point, Donnie, is that they now represent the gravest domestic violent extremism threat to the country. So what do you do about that?
Well, that's exactly my point, that this depravity just translates into real situations where you have 2/3 of people who don't believe it. And I think the only thing you can do is continue to give sane arguments. And the other thing that we can do is and this is obviously a discussion with Kara Swisher and other people, is just heighten up the social media accountability. I mean, that's the big problem. No matter what we do on shows like this, or no matter what the New York Times does, it is nothing compared to Facebook and things like that. So until we can put some of the toothpaste back in the tube there, the answer is we're up against it. We're up against it. But I do think the best news, and I've said this on the show before, is that the ballot box will speak. And I think at the end of the day, these cast of characters do add a stench and a toxicity onto the party. And I do believe even in the 22 midterms, it will defy history. And I think the Democrats will be in good shape. So there's got to be another cycle of two of losing before this lunacy, given that what's going on in Facebook and other social media has it out there, before this lunacy settles down a little bit.
I mean, I think you're right, unless they succeed in the voter nullification efforts underway tragically in all too many states. Johnny Doyle, Andrew Weissman, two of my favorite humans. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. To be continued. When we return, the Republican election official in Georgia who didn't go along with lies about election fraud and is losing his job because of it. His warning about the future of elections is next.